And so now let's get started with some of the trending business headline now. The World Bank says Nigeria's constant fiscal deficit has worsened the nation's public debt stock, with 96.3% of the government revenue spent on servicing debt in 2022. This is according to the Macro Poverty Outlook for Nigeria, April 2023 brief released by the bank in 2022. In 2022, the cost of the petrol subsidy increased from 0.7% to 2.3% of GDP. The fiscal deficit at 5% of GDP in 2022, breaching the stipulated limit for a federal fiscal deficit of 3%. Now, this has kept the public debt stock at over 38% of GDP and pushed the debt service to revenue ratio from 83.2% in 2021 to 96.3% in 2022. And away from there now, the Organized Private Sector (OPS) has rejected a recent call by the International Monetary Fund on the federal government to increase taxes in order to reduce borrowing. According to them, the toxic prescription, if accepted by the government, will spell disaster for the country. Organized Private Sector also reiterated that the $800 million loan to serve as palliatives ahead of the planned removal of subsidy was not necessary, but the government to give attention to fixing the nation's refineries with a view to making them operational before the removal of petrol subsidy. And now chaos may break out across airports in the country today as aviation unions vowed on Sunday to begin a two-day warning strike to begin today, which is Monday. Domestic and international airlines are likely to be forced to cancel their flights as aviation workers down tools in protest against what they say is the government's failure to address their concerns regarding national minimum wage, consequential adjustment, and working conditions. Union leaders said they were left with no choice but to take drastic action to force the federal government to implement earlier agreements reached on minimum wage and workers' general welfare. The unions threatened to withdraw their services over the refusal of the federal government to release the reviewed condition of service negotiated over 7 years ago. And now, the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning of Nigeria, Zainab Ahmed, says the $800 million facility the country recently got from the World Bank for post-petrol subsidy removal palliative is currently awaiting parliamentary approval for the federal government to commence disbursement. Addressing journalists on the sidelines of the just concluded International Monetary Fund World Bank spring meetings in Washington, D.C., United States, the minister noted that the facility will be deployed to provide succor to 10 million households who are expected to get about 5,000 naira each for a period of 6 months. She explains that the initial duration of the palliatives meant to cushion the effect of the planned subsidy removal on vulnerable Nigerians for 6 months, but will be reviewed upon extensive consultation with stakeholders. Ahmed, however, denied reports that the federal government would be paying a consultancy fee of $23.3 million on the facility, adding that once the parliament approves it, the disbursement will commence.